चले चल निकल पड़े. Okay, good. Nice to have you back. Today we are going to look at something called social inequality and exclusion. We have looked at these in various forms, or we discussed lightly when we covered the caste system, tribal system, and so on and so forth, and also the marketplaces, how they differentiated, discriminated, and so on for the last chapter. But we are going to dive little deeper. गहरापन से आज थोड़ा देखने वाले हैं ये डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, इनइक्वालिटी और एक्सक्लूजन किस हद तक है. Okay, so market as social institution we look at, and we will look at exclusion, we will look at discrimination, and we will look at prejudices that exist in society as such, and how these things got extended. The developments happened, but these got worsened. Social inequality and exclusion are considered to be facts of life. हम इसको सोसाइटी में अनिवार्य सोचते हैं. क्यों? We do not care. Do you care about the beggars? Do you care about child labor? Many homes have children working. When they should have been in the school, they are working at your home. Yeah, helpers, the drivers, yeah, construction workers. We discriminate. We don't treat them बराबर. उसके लिए अलग ग्लास होगा, उसके लिए अलग प्लेट होगी, वो बाहर ही बैठेगा, अंदर नहीं आएगा, सेम डाइनिंग टेबल पे तो बैठ नहीं सकते हैं. So lot of things we do. Is it limited to that? No. We violate women. About 37% of women in well-to-do families are abused. There are prejudices against minorities. आज के तारीख में even state governments, मेरे ख्याल में, क्योंकि मैं चंद states नाम नहीं लेना चाहता हूं, जहां पे लोगों को हाउस रेंट में नहीं मिलते हैं. Disabled people do not have, there are people like Amir Abidi, they all fought for discrimination against disabled. Even footpath उनके लिए नहीं बनाया गया है ढंग से, yeah, for their wheelchairs, etc. So there are prejudices. And we feel that these are natural, inevitable in such large societies. They can't escape. That's what we believe. And also we say, prejudices, अरे उसको नहीं मिला क्योंकि वो काबिलियत ही नहीं है. So we will say lack of abilities. अरे मेहनत नहीं करता है. Okay? So we will give different names for justifying saying that they deserve it. असलियत में देखा जाए, factually you will see these poor work harder. Can you tell me, can you lift the bricks for a whole day? No. And they work whole day lifting the bricks on their head, breaking stones. They do it whole day. Can you imagine? Should they be paid more, or should you be paid more sitting in an AC room? No. We discriminate. Yeah, they're doing all menial work. घर पे झाड़ू पोछा बर्तन मांजने से, I don't know how many men in this country in households would have made चाय तक नहीं बनाए होंगे. Okay, so we discriminate, we create inequalities, we exclude people. But it is not about individuals you are talking about, it is about groups, because it is about society. This is about a system that we have created. This is not about economics, it's not about finances. It is about the structures and systems that we have created, we looked at in the last chapters. Why? Because there is a differentiation in terms of resources given. Whether resources or economic capital in terms of materials, income, money, assets, there is a differentiation. There is a differentiation of cultural capital, educational qualifications, employment, etc. That also there is a differentiation. And there also differentiation of social capital, the kind of people you meet, जिस तरह के लोगों से आप मिलते हो, जुलते हो, किस तरह के लोगों के साथ बैठते हो, खाते हो, इन सब में अंतर है. पैसा का अंतर है, एजुकेशन का अंतर है और मिलन सहन का भी अंतर है। ये सारे चीजें जो हैं सम्मिलित होके ये विभाजन इस कदर करती हैं, हम सोच भी नहीं सकते। और खासकर हम लोग जो अच्छे लेवल में पहुंच गए हैं, हम लोग इसकी तो परवाह ही नहीं करते। हम और कहते हैं कि यहां ही डिजर्व्स इट, दैट्स व्हाई वी लुक एट इट। And it is also said, the more educated guys, the more connectivity it happens, more money he will get. So each of these three, economic, cultural and social, all of them are interrelated. So this kinds of inequality, this kinds of differences creates the inequality. And this is about characteristic of a society. It is not about individual. It is, as I said, unequal distribution of resources. And when the technology comes in, it becomes much, much more. Yeah, the technology division, haves and have-nots, even made things further. जब एक एंड में एक लोग मिलते हैं गांव में, जैसे कल देखा था हमने गांव में दूसरे सेशन में, वो उनकी मिलन सहन जो होती है, अपने लोगों से, बिरादरी से मिलना फ्राइडे मार्केट में होता है। लेकिन हमारा आपका क्या होता है, हम कोई बैठा हुआ है लंदन में, न्यूयॉर्क में, हम लोग चाय पी लिया करके हम लोग व्हाट्सएप में करते। सो दिस, लुक एट द डिफरेंस। सो दिस टेक्नोलॉजी मेक्स ह्यूज डिफरेंस एंड दिस परसिस्ट ओवर जनरेशन because it is inheritance. Okay, so if somebody is a cobbler, his child is expected to be cobbler, his grandchild is expected to be cobbler. Hope the current things are changing, but even now in the rural areas or in the hinterland, this is what happens. So occupation is passed on. Yeah, I have to be a laborer if my father is a laborer. Okay, and because of endogamy, because people marry within the same community, same caste system, same tribal system, this worsens because the movement does not exist. As we have seen, the caste system is also social status, is also economic status. If you continue to be in the same set of people or same caste, married in same caste, obviously how will you grow? If there are intercaste marriages, if somebody gets married to higher level, then there is a chance of growing higher. But the society looks at it. Even today, there are so many violent incidents looking at intercaste marriages. Yeah. So how does it happen? And these are perpetrated because people like you and me, we actually worsen it. If only we take up the cause of your, for example, at maid, helper, the boy next door, the driver's children, if we can take care of their upliftment, getting them educated and so on and so forth, naturally things will get better. But we will not. Most of us not. So we actually perpetrate through our belief and ideology. So we discriminate by gender. Even today, look at what is the percentage of women in the corporate leadership. No, there is a ceiling, something called glass ceiling. There is a discrimination on religion, there is discrimination on ethnicity, language. Yeah, Hindi versus other language की हो रही है, so संघर्ष भी हो रहा है वहां पर. Okay, caste, disability, हर कदम पे संघर्ष. Privileged women, educated women who come from good families report sexual harassment in the offices, everywhere, and at home, domestic violence. Okay, minority professionals, some of the states, these minority professionals, well, highly educated, highly placed, maybe उसी कंपनी में काम करता हूं, maybe some technology company, my Muslim brother also works in the same company, मुझे मिल जाएगी घर, उसको नहीं मिलेगी घर. And ये सिस्टमिक है, गवर्नमेंट ड्रिवन भी है चंद लोग जन जगह पे. इफ यू गो, इट इज नॉट स्टेटेड, इट इज वर्बल, इट इज वोकल. एंड इट हैपेंड इन वन ऑफ द स्टेट्स रिसेंटली व्हेन आई केम आस्क, नो सर, अनरिटन है, मिलेगा ही नहीं आपका घर, आपको घर. वन ऑफ द माइनॉरिटी कोलीग सेड, यू विल नॉट गेट. ओके, सो वी आर डूइंग गेटोइजेशन. ये इलाका बना दिया है, वो इसी इलाके में आपको मिलेगा, उस इलाके में नहीं मिलेगा. So we carry the prejudices, we discriminate. So we have opinions. Discrimination is about opinions and attitudes. ये सब इधर है दिमाग में. We carry these prejudices. And all these things are carried by what you see or what you hear. But actually, you will not experience it. Okay? You see, because you are at your home, your parents or your family is discriminating and you carry the same prejudice. And we resist change. Though we are exposed to outside world, in the developed world, we resist change. Very difficult to change. We carry those stereotypes, fixed, inflexible ideas. Say these kinds of people are always fighting. These kinds of people are lazy. These tribes or these castes are untrustworthy. They are cowardly. And it is not limited to communities, it is all limited to people. They look at it. Variations happen between the people, even within the community. If you put 4 people, there definitely is going to be a substantial difference in the traits between the each. And not to say that even me, for example, I may feel lazy at some point of time, but I may be very active at some point of time. You can't brand me lazy. Some activities I may be indifferent because I don't like it. Some activities I may be crazy and I put 24 hours, 48 hours. So we cannot discriminate. We cannot label. Kindly do not do so. Each context, our performance or behavior will differ. We need to be very cognizant about these facts. हमको इस पे सोचना जरूरी है. हर इंसान अलग अलग सिचुएशन में अलग अलग तरह का प्रभाव होगा, बिहेवियर होगा. Discrimination. While prejudice is about thought, prejudice is about attitude, discrimination is these attitudes or thoughts in action. Yeah, it's about people. We deprive certain set of people of certain set of opportunities. The moment you differentiate resources, you differentiate opportunities, obviously the discrimination comes into place. Obviously the outcomes will be very different. And if you continue to do for over the years, a lot of things happen, especially as I said, development, technological development, etc. The rich become richer, the upper caste becomes richer, and lower caste continue to be same. And in action, it is very difficult to disprove. For example, I may deprive somebody of, arey yaar, look at it and say you have prejudices, and you may say people from this background may not work, I don't want to give the job. When the person questions, the usual response is they are better qualified, better capable people I have recruited. That's what will be the answer. Okay? So it is hard to prove because everything happening in the mind and behind the scenes. Let us look at some statistics. Look at it. Population, because of all these actions that we have done, look at the kind of poverty levels, though this is little old, dated in 99-2000. Look at scheduled castes. 46% of scheduled tribes in rural India are below poverty line. In urban, 35. Scheduled caste, look at it, about 36% in urban, 38% in 36% in rural, 38% in urban. Look at Muslim upper caste. 34% in urban, 26% in rural. Look at the dramatic difference. Okay? So in all, if you look at it, across all groups, across castes, tribes, and across people of all faiths, if you look at urban, 23% of them are poor. In rural, 27% of them are poor, with the highest registration is scheduled tribes in the rural area. Understand, scheduled tribes are deprived of their resources in the process of development. They own the forest, they own the nature, they depended on natural resources. We deprive them of all natural resources, and development accentuates it, and their highest number, below poverty line. It is cruel the way we are going about, the way nation's development has been happening. Yeah, the cutoff involves across the societies. It prevents them resources like education, health, insurance, banking, social security, transportation, judiciary, probe, police. Okay? So police station जाएगा, आप जाएंगे टिप टॉप होके, आपको कुर्सी दिया जाएगा. ट्राइबल आएगा, उसको बोला उधर बैठो, मैं बुलाऊंगा. वो दिन भर बैठा हुआ है. और आप जाएंगे, हम जाएंगे, गाड़ी में उतर के चाय पिलाया जाएगा. So this is the kind of behavior that you see across. There are people very powerful who get their cases. इतने cases हैं, रातों रात हादसा आज हुआ है, आज रात बैठे हुए हैं जजेस टू गिव डिसीजन. एंड कुछ लोग हैं जो लोअर, वो पता नहीं 20 साल से चक्कर काट रहे हैं कोर्ट की. These are things of facts, figures. Everybody should take note of. Yeah, we should be mindful of these. And these things are not voluntary, it's completely involuntary, jabardasti, by virtue of birth, by virtue of occupation, everything is jabardasti, no choice. Can you imagine you sleeping on pavements? Can you imagine you sleeping, कभी गए फ्लाईओवर के पीछे नीचे, कभी सोया है, कभी आपने क्वेश्चन किया है? हम लोग नहीं करते हैं, गाड़ी में बैठे रहते हैं, देखते रहते हैं. We don't ask, we don't question. And this discrimination prolongs. You see, can you imagine now there are groups that are farming, exploiting children, child labor, child beggars. You will see in the cities. It is to an extent that it has become like a mafia. Yeah. So it is very important for us to questions. Yeah. When prolonged discrimination, for example, if आदिवासीज, जनजाति लोगों को मंदिर में प्रवेश करने से अगर रोकते हैं, लगातार दशकों रोकते जाएंगे, तो वो अपना मंदिर बनाएगा. या और ज्यादा गुस्सा आएगा तो बोलेगा कि यार, he will change the religion, he will move to Islam, he will go to Christianity. Why this change of religion is happening? It is not because of some other reasons. Why people are moving from one religion to other religion? Because they are not treated, they are not respected, they are not valued. That is the prime reason of these things happening. If you continue to discriminate, if you continue to perpetrate the inequalities, then these things will happen. It's part of society. And then we create issues by saying conversions are happening and so on and so forth. Kindly solve the issue. Real issue has to be solved. So we all have to work for a constant change. It has to be consistent, constant. It has to start at home. It has to start at every place that you and I are working or traveling, sitting, eating, drinking, and so on and so forth. So caste system in itself is discriminating, that we have seen all along. ऊंच नीच तो मतलब ऐसा फैला हुआ है. As I said, it is born into occupation and status. Scriptures have never said it. Okay? But if you see, in the space of finances, economics, though in the social ladder perhaps Brahmins are considered to be higher, in the warfare or in economics they are rated lower than Kshatriyas or Vaishyas. But it comes to spiritual pujas, discourses and all, the Brahmins are held higher. Okay? But in reality, social economic status does not coincide. Okay? And these distinctions through developments have worsened. The employment, mobility and all have bettered the urban areas and worsened the rural areas. That's why you see the differentiation in urban area a little bit better, in rural area a little bit worse in most of the cases. So what are the various aspects of this caste system? Vicious aspects. And when you look at untouchability, it is very vicious. Vicious to the extent that people are deprived of drinking water, people are deprived of temples, religious ceremonies, festivals. They are kept out, they are asked to kept out. Yeah. For example, puja of a rath, And this is happening across the country, many places. Even in the tribal belt in the Chhattisgarh, the puja is perhaps done by a pujari sitting on the rath, and the rath is pulled by tribals, people of lower caste. The rath is made by tribals and the puja is done by pujari. Imagine, okay? And so this humiliation and subordination. आप अगर रोड पे जा रहे हैं और उच्च कोटि के जन आपके सामने जा रहे हैं तो आपका टोपी निकालते हैं, झुक के ऐसा जाते हैं, और दूर से दिखा तो गली में जाके छुप जाते हैं. So these are the things. It's making worse. And there are forced labor, unpaid labor. People, जमींदार साहब के घर में जो नौकर होंगे वो नौकरी रहेंगे, उनको शायद 2 वक्त की रोटी मिलता होगा, कुछ, there is no salary, nothing, unpaid, and they are asked to do demeaning work. Scavenging is done by certain set of people who are considered to be perennially scavengers. Yeah, वो अपने आपके टॉयलेट्स क्लीन करते हैं, उनको सिर्फ टॉयलेट, वो अंदर घुसता है तो पिछवाड़े से आते. सो ये सब हम लोग इस कदर के चीजें कर पड़े हैं. सो दिस इज अनटचेबल. यू कैन नॉट बी, if I see you, the level of punishments is so much. If he or she crosses from a lower jati, untouchable jati, considered to be untouchable, then I have to go, or the Brahmin has to go and take bath. The untouchable will be punished, he will be excluded, will be asked to sit out of the village. These are the kinds of things. It's the question of purity and ritualization and what is it called, pollution. इसलिए महात्मा गांधी ने हरिजन नाम दिया था, people who are untouchable. He said they are directly descendants of gods. At least he said that if I propagate, अगर मैं ये कहूँ ये हरिजन हैं, शायद लोग भगवान के हैं तो शायद बढ़िया कुछ देखे. और Dr. Ambedkar fought perennially for Dalits. Yeah, in everything that he did. He created a constitution where, in constitution, untouchability is what you call, is punishable. Yeah. So, what are the qadam? What are the steps taken by various initiatives taken by state and state governments, etc., against this kind of discrimination? So, British in 1935 listed scheduled tribes, scheduled caste, separately listed for special treatment. For OBCs in 1980, Mandal Commission was formed by the Janata government, and the commission gave its report, and it was implemented in 1990 when VP Singh was the Prime Minister. And there was a lot of big agitation in 1990. Mandal agitation happened, and then that came into existence. And over the years, there are reserved constituencies for assembly also and parliaments also, so that people from various segments of society can also come into policy making. Jobs in government and public sectors are reserved. In educational institutions, there are reservations. Yeah, though instead of trying to solve the problem because of political gains that political parties and leaders gain, they are looking at reservation as a means for the power more than a reservation as a means to uplift people. As long as that exists, it is going to be a challenge. So there have been many laws created against discrimination. So in 1850, the law that came into Caste Disabilities Removal Act to bring Dalits children into schools. In 2005, similarly, OBC reservations and higher education was brought by 93rd Amendment to Constitution in 2005. So, Constitution abolished SC/ST Act in 1989 brought in legally severe punishments for people who are discriminating. Understand, if the maid in your home or a driver raises the voice and he goes to the court for any discrimination that he experienced at your home, you will be punished. They are not educated, perhaps they don't go. But an enlightened one can drag you to the court. So we all need to bring the change, and the change can happen from home. This nation has seen very eminent Dalits as literateurs, poets from Marathi, Kannada, Telugu, Tamil, n number of languages. Sahitya Kala Academy Awards, Jnanpith Awards have been won by people who are born in such discriminated communities for the kind of work, the richness they brought into literature and the nation's literature scene. Apart from reformers and poets and all emerging, this has led to few political developments too. Yeah, Kashiramji's Bahujan Samaj Party came. Then Dalit Sangharsh Samiti in Maharashtra or Karnataka came. And lately, one young man is propelling an alternative way of looking at it, saying that these political parties that have come in the past, they also have got lured towards power and money. So there are youngsters who have launched Bhim Party. So there are a lot of movements that are happening to assert their rights. Let's look at OBCs. OBCs also came into existence. Who are OBCs? Usually you've seen OBCs are somewhere sandwiched between upper class and the lowest of the lowest class are Adivasis. They are in the caste system. Usually they are seen in the lower rung of ladder, and predominantly they are artisans, artisan communities. You will see across in the caste belt, tribal belt, caste system and tribal belt, you will see a lot of artisans, people who are into services. Okay? They are neither forward nor Dalits, they are in between. And they are affiliated to all. For example, if you go to get your automobile repaired, who will you see? If you call a carpenter, or if you call a plumber, if you call an electrician, who do you see? In fact, in most cases, you will see Muslims from minorities. It's very interesting. The skills in this nation, perhaps the skill space is occupied by people at lower caste from across the segments, across religions and faith, religious affinities and faith. In 1953, first Backward Class Commission report by Kaka Kelkar was tabled, but it took a lot more years for really bringing in the change. Southern states have been at the forefront. Northern states and central India, the Hindi belt, the central government as a government came much later. Only when Janata Party came into existence at the center in 1977, in 1978, these issues have been brought up. As I said, Mandal Commission was set up and to look at how do we help these communities at the lower stratas in the system. Okay? And it was implemented in 1990. 41% of the population constitute OBC. So OBC is significant itself, over 40% of the population. Now look at it, what kind of say they can have in the political arena. So politicians or political calculus nowadays all is around these things. How do we make sure we get their support? We don't want to make much of changes in their livelihoods. We don't want to work for betterment, but certainly we want them to grab our power. That's the way the political strata of society. This political strata is from every kinds of background. Okay? And all of them are looking at exploiting these numbers. And even here, there are upper OBCs, lower OBCs. Upper OBCs have the say, or they hold the land. Lower OBCs, OBC people work on the land. So there also like something called creamy layer and blah 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 have emerged over the years. More classification in reservations all happening. So there is the next set called tribes. Tribes are become powerless, as we have seen. Even they're worse. Okay, their forestry, the dependents, all have been usurped in the name of development, and they are, as we said, they are impoverished. Okay, they have close association to Hindu society over the years because of the interactions and so on and so forth. Okay. The caste and tribe screen is porous though because of the movement, because of the migration, and the migration makes it even complex, because where tribals were in excess or higher numbers, you could bring in certain schemes and resources, policies for a particular place, but the migration has made it even worse. Because of, as I said, developmental spaces. As the development happened, they are deprived, they become laborers, they are now everywhere at the lowest rate of society, trying to eke out their livelihood. Okay? And if these tribals are seen as going back to the forests, then they are seen as encroachers. If they put a small tent somewhere, it is seen as illegally occupied. It is their birthright, and we have deprived of them. And many of them become daily wage workers. As I said, they are exploited. Many a times the wages are not given on time, or wages are not given ever. So all these movements came about when the rebellion happened. States like Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, etc., with over the years of struggle, came into existence in 2000. Okay? So let's look at the next segment, that is women, the struggle of women. Women constitute half of the humanity, yet they have been deprived of their basic rights. They are excluded. They are not treated equally. Let's look at number of the people in power. This nation of India has had only one woman prime minister in 70 years and one woman president because of some other reasons, nevertheless. Okay, but only one dominated. So powers, and same is in the corporate structure. How many women do you see at the top? How many CEOs? So there is a glass ceiling everywhere. And it is not about the physiological or the mental state. The mental state of men, actually. Okay? They are capable. Let's look at the way we behave at home. Most of the families don't see the boy and the girl in a similar way. The girl is given a lot of other work to do, the chores to do. The boy is not even asked to clean his own glass, tumbler. Isn't it? And they don't have rights. Only recently the Supreme Court said the girl child and boy child, both of them have same rights vis-a-vis property. So they didn't even have the rights. Let's look at hundreds of years. If you look at the Kerala matrilineal society or Meghalayan matrilineal society, you see is women are at the forefront. And look at the education, look at the prosperity, look at the way girls go and conquer the world. In the medical space, you will find any hospital anywhere in the world, women nurses will be there. Why? Similarly, in Africa, trading and farming are headed by women. And you go to any country, you will in the marketplace you will see only women. And they've done great contribution, they have given great contribution to society. So it is not about capability or incapability. This is about the way society looks at them. So it is a gender, the discrimination the society brings in, it starts at home. Only in 19th century, when there were educated people who are also socially conscious, they started creating a movement that started looking at the rights of women, the inequality enforced, and so on and so forth. So they're democratically conscious, they're spiritually conscious, they looked at the balance of modernity and tradition. Who are they? For example, Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Brahma Samaj in 1828 he created, and he worked towards reforming the society. The foremost thing that he is known for, his work is known for, is for elimination of sati. The tradition of the women jumping into the pyre when her husband passes away. It is such ridiculous. Yeah? So he worked towards elimination. He said that every woman has a right in the society and there's nothing to do with the husband passing away, and she has every right. And then went a gentleman called Ranade. He went further ahead, saying that widows remarriage is a must. Women after loss of husband doesn't mean the end of life. She can do a re-beginning, she can stand on her own feet, and she is capable of being productive in the society. Then came Jyotiba Phule. We already have discussed about his contribution in the caste system. He has not only worked towards emancipation of caste system, but also against the gender oppression that he was seeing in the society. Because the society, if the women in the society are taken care of, the society prospers, the nation prospers. And another gentleman called Sir Syed Ahmad Khan did an immense contribution in women's education in the Muslim community. He said, if the women in the community get educated, then the family prospers, the way taken care of, the family members taken care of is very different, the way children are educated is very different, and the families start moving up in terms of their socio-economic conditions. It is not that only men have worked, women have been at the forefront. There are two very interesting cases that I come across. Tarabai Shinde from Maharashtra, a housewife, wrote a very interesting article, Stree Purush Tulna, in 1882, when she observed the way the families behave towards men and women, the way society behaves towards men and women. The same thing done by each is treated very differently, commented upon very differently. Okay, so very interesting, and her write-up actually ignited quite a few thought processes in the society. There's another lady she comes from West Bengal, Begum Roke Sakhavar Hussain. Her husband, being liberal, thanks to him being liberal, he let her go in terms of facilitated, encouraged her. She learned multiple languages, and she wrote in Urdu, she wrote in Bangla, and she wrote in English. Her treatise Sultana's Dream, that was released in 1905, a hilarious take on the society, impacted the West Bengal, the movement of rights for women in West Bengal. Thanks to all such things, in 1931, the Karachi plenary session of Indian National Congress worked on rights for women, and that I understand including voting rights of women. So it's a lot of things happened. As we progress further, there are more challenges that came about. In 1970s, some of the issues that were not seen earlier started coming to fore. For example, rape of women in police custodies, that became an issue. Dowry deaths became an issue. Women's unequal opportunities in media became an issue because media started growing and women wanted to play a role there, but there were ceilings. So all these things were in the forefront. They all came up. As the struggle ended, no. We looked at in the chapter on population, we looked at the gender, in terms of gender numbers in this nation, sex ratio. There are only about 880, 890 girl children for every 1,000 men. This skewed sex ratio, can you imagine what impact it causes? So the girl child is aborted, they look at sonography, and the moment they identify the sex illegally done, the gender, abortion happens. Or if the girl child is born, not taken care of, the mother of the girl child also is not taken care of, okay, and a lot of other things, the malnutrition and so on and so forth. So the sex ratio is abysmal. For last 30 odd years, I have been hearing the debate on in the policy making bodies like assemblies and parliaments, there has to be a reservation. 1/3 of the seats should be, I don't know why 1/3, why can't be half, but 1/3 of the seats should be reserved for women. Believe you me, when parties are in opposition, they talk about it, but when they get on to the power, they don't talk about it. Even the women members of the parties in the power don't talk about it. Yeah, they are the first ones to defend status quo. Let's now look at struggles of disabled. Society is disabled, not the differently abled people. Why is society disabled? The way we look at them, the prejudices we carry towards them. Yeah? Only recently the society has started recognizing that differently abled also have rights. Only in the last decade, for example, a person I know, Abidi, Mr. Abidi is no more, who was bound to wheelchair, had to fight cases in the Supreme Court for years on end for Supreme Court to order the municipal corporations and so on and so forth that all accesses should be enabled for differently abled. Footpaths, roads, parking, the buses. Where do you see? Do you see? Yeah? They struggle. So, public perception of disabled is the greatest challenge. They say it is a karma. ये पिछले जन्म का कर्मा भुगत रहा है, कर्म भुगत रहा है, इसलिए वो इस जन्म में ऐसा है. Yeah? So, the usual belief in Hindu tradition is you have done something wrong in the previous life, that's why you are now disabled or differently abled. They also talk alludingly that many problems in the households are because of that one person's or his or her impairment. Bechara. No, this word bechara is as a victim we often use. So we also say that he is not performing or he is not able to do because his own perception of his disability. Her own perception अपने आप को बढ़ नहीं पा रही है क्योंकि अपने आप जिस व्यथा से जा रही है उस पे उनको अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, सो इसलिए बढ़ नहीं पा रही है. We keep talking that they need help. Yeah, and there are people out there who, for example, one gentleman I know, Mark English. Mark English is a New Zealander he lost both his legs in one of the, he had a dream of climbing Mount Everest, but in 1920 he lost both legs. But this gentleman, at the age of 53 or 54, is the only human being with no legs, both legs not being there, amputated, climbed Mount Everest. So they are capable. As a society, we need to facilitate. Many times we abuse, we hurl interests, insults. For example, गूंगा है क्या? बहरा है क्या? Are you dumb? Can't you see? And so on and so forth. So we use derogatorily. It's derogatorily used words for general insults. So whenever you see any human being, little deviation from normal, for some defect or abnormality or distortion, if we see them in public, we don't behave similar manner. We keep away. We don't engage. We look down upon. Perhaps in some situations we move away. Poverty has a way of worsening disability. How? Because if you are impoverished, okay, so the pregnant woman does not get her nutritious fill. It's a struggle for the pregnant woman. When the child is born, she is not able to feed the child. Nourishment in the young one doesn't happen, malnutrition. And the immunization that has to be done for varieties of diseases periodically does not get taken care of, because we don't take them. उनको लेके ही नहीं जाते हैं हॉस्पिटल, क्योंकि जो सुइयां लगनी है बच्चों को वो नहीं होता है, because poverty, we will not stick to the schedules, we will not even नजरअंदाज करते हैं. That also creates a lot of problems. So inadequate health care of the mother, जो माता जी हैं और जो बच्चा है, दोनों को वो नहीं मिलता जो हेल्थ केयर उनको मिलना चाहिए. And this also leads to incidents, accidents because of ill health and so on. Yeah? और इन सारी चीज़ों से, पॉवर्टी की वजह से या गरीबी की वजह से आप पाएंगे कि डिसेबिलिटी गरीबों में ज़्यादा होता है, अमीरों में कम होता है, बिकॉज हेल्थ केयर और जो उनका देखभाल है वो कमज़ोर होती है. Other way around also is true. Disability increases poverty because of isolation, segregation. या डिसेबिलिटी है वो स्कूल में भर्ती नहीं होते हैं, वो इनको क्या करना है पढ़ाई, हाँ, और lot of things happen. So education, that impacts employment and so on and so forth. So the poverty accentuates disability, so it's a cycle. Either way it's a problem. So as a society, are we aware? Are we able to do things? There is an interesting quote. I'll talk about it. And thankfully, in 2011, the census of 2011 took care of collecting data of disabled people in every family. Hitherto, it was not. So, in the form, there was a indication on what kind of disability, from when. So, पहली बार 2011 के सेंसस में जो disabled people हैं, अपाहिज हैं, उनकी डेटा कलेक्ट की गई है. See, we know from the first chapter जब तक डेटा नहीं है, जब तक पॉपुलेशन के नंबर्स नहीं है, पॉलिसीज और स्कीम्स कैसे लाएं, है ना? तो पहली बार 2011 में थैंकफुली ये काम हुआ है. ओके, there is a saying or a statement by one interesting gentleman, Brissenden, in 1986. What did he say? He said, we are disabled by buildings. It is not we are disabled. We are not differently abled. The buildings make us disabled. They are not designed to admit us. This in turn leads to range of further disablements. Yeah? बिल्डिंगें और इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो बनाई जाती है, कभी भी ये अपाहिज को सोचते हुए नहीं बनाते हैं, है ना? हाल ही में कुछ बदलाव आ रहा है, the changes recently, but buildings are, for example, schools. How many schools are enabled for differently abled people? Employment. Yeah, they are not educated, employment will be low, and even in employment, you have hundreds of questions. Whether he or she will deliver, whether he or she will be productive, ये सारा प्रश्न आता है. और ऑफिसर्स भी इतना एबल नहीं है, कितने ऑफिसर्स में लिफ्ट होंगी नहीं होंगी, रैंप होगी नहीं होगी. और सोशल लाइफ में भी मैरिज इज नॉट इजी. उनको फेस्टिवल्स में इधर उधर कम ही इनवाइट आता है, वो आ नहीं पाएगा, ये आ नहीं पाएंगी, वो आएंगी तो दिक्कतें होंगी, सो उनको बुलाएंगे भी नहीं. ओके, in fact, I read an article where a judge of an high court saying that, look at our own infrastructure, our own building, how many physically abled people, disabled people will be able to comfortably move around. So obviously, justice system also is not going to deliver what it could deliver. Yeah, so ऐसा देखा जाए हर जगह डिसेबल्ड, फिजिकली चैलेंज्ड, अपाहिज लोगों के लिए बहुत दिक्कतें ही दिक्कतें. सबसे पहले तो सोच में दिक्कत है, इसलिए इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी क्रिएट नहीं होता है. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर क्रिएट नहीं होता है तो जो भी उनको मिलना चाहिए वो नहीं मिलता. सो डिसेबलमेंट लाइज इन द कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ सोसाइटी. सोच में, सोसाइटी की सोच और व्यवहार में जो अंतर है, जो फैसिलिटेट नहीं करता है, वहीं से सब कुछ शुरू होता है. ओके, सो इन दिस chapter we looked at inequality and exclusion of castes, tribals, women, and finally of disabled. And there are varieties of these inequalities that place in the society. Kindly go through your book in detail, read about nuances, because you're going to get objective questions, and small things here and there can make a difference. Take care. We'll see again in the next session. Thank you.